Alrighty, everybody. Well, welcome back to the fall of Three Up, Three Down. We've officially been around for a year, which is really hard to believe, and it's good to have people back in, some new faces, some familiar faces of old, and it's just great to be back in and have an opportunity to connect. For those of you guys who are new and experiencing Three Up, Three Down for the first time, our philosophy is very simple. All we're trying to do is connect with other umpires from around the program, not just in a specific region, but around different regions, and then together just share our ideas, what's made us successful on the diamond, what we've done successful in developing league programs as league UICs, as district UICs, and things like that. So it's a collaborative environment for us to share ideas and then ultimately get better at our craft, both as leaders and then obviously as umpires on the diamond. So we're thrilled to go ahead and get started with another season here. Just kind of remind everybody, the platform, remember, is about a 30-minute conversation. Tonight we'll be talking a lot about what we take away from the 2021 season. Very informal session, a lot of interaction and feedback, some questions that we'll definitely toss out there. DJ will drop some of those in the chat. But nonetheless here, just a really good opportunity for us to reflect upon 2021 and then start to frame what exactly our fall seasons may look like for us and what 2022 may look like ahead of us as well. So about 30 minutes here in front of us. We'll use the chat here a lot of times too. We'll also have some unstructured open discussion too tonight. So be ready for all that stuff here. And then the last announcement that I've got here before I kind of unveil what exactly we've got planned for the rest of the season is just to, and DJ, you can drop this in the chat when you get a second to do so, is to drop the link to anyone that wants to join the email distribution list. So if you're looking to get on the email distribution list for Three Up, Three Down, that way you get some of the resources that we may share, some announcements, and just some feedback. Just drop your email. Just follow that Google form, and then that'll go ahead and take you to something to fill out. And when you get ready to fill that one out, that'll give us your email address, and we'll be able to go ahead and to get you added in there for communications and whatnot, in addition to what we put on Facebook. So other than that, DJ, is there anything else here announcement-wise before we kind of unveil where our direction is headed to, or anything like that? Anything that I missed?
Covered it all. Happy to be back. Ready to learn. Let's do it.
All righty. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen here with everybody and kind of get back in the swing of things here. I used to have this stuff obviously down to old hat, so rediscovering all different types of keys and stuff like that here for us. So get ready to go ahead and share this here with you. And specifically here, what I want to go ahead and take a look at is what exactly we have planned upcoming for us here and what we're going to call Season 7, and that is the fall season. And we're going to split this fall season really into two different groups, one of which then is to reflect on the 2021 season. We'll start that tonight, and we'll actually be able to go ahead and do that coming up with a few guest speakers. We've been in touch with quite a few different individuals here to try and plan out some things. Our first kind of series of guest speakers will be the hashtag COVID crew that worked the 2021 Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We've got them coming up starting next weekend all the way through the first weekend in October. October 3rd will be their last date. We'll bring them in their crews if we can. If not, we'll have like a guest panel of about 4 or 5 different individuals that made up the 12 umpires that worked in 2021. Have a discussion, a conversation with them, do some interview questions, that kind of thing, to allow them to share what their takeaways from 2021 were, what they valued most about their opportunity to work the World Series again, and just some general ideas, insights, and things like that they would like to share. So beginning next week, we're excited to have the COVID crew on tap, and again, that'll take us through the next 3 weeks. After that, we'll go ahead and touch base with the region UICs. We've got a bunch of emails out to each regional UIC, including the 5 in the United States, and then 1 from Canada as well. Brad Johnston will actually be on with us too throughout the month of October to kind of share some of the things that they saw throughout 2021 and some things thinking about moving forward into 2022. Just a really good opportunity for everybody to kind of connect with their individual region UIC if their time permits and their availability permits to come on and get some notes from them about what went well in 2021, what do we need to focus on, and what directions should we be headed and thinking about here moving forward too. So kind of reach out to those guest speakers. And then the last kind of major segment to take us into the holidays will be preparing to lead in 2022. And that segment will be about building an umpire program, which we spent a lot of time with back in January of 2021. We'll take a look at recruiting and retaining umpires, and then also start to build towards how exactly to develop those umpires here in November and December as we start to put together our programs for the upcoming spring in 2022. And again, that'll include things not only with recruiting and retaining, but also designing your umpire clinics. And so many of us do such a a great job in our training programs. We want to beg, borrow, and steal from as many people as we can, give you guys a platform to share those ideas and what you do for your training opportunities, and then also share, drills and whatnot, not only from us, but as I said, from all of you guys who have been on the front lines at league and district levels as well. So really good opportunity for us to collaborate, reflect back on 2021, and as we see here, kind of put those ideas together in preparing to lead there in 2022. So we'll get ready to go ahead and take a look at those things here coming up as well. Last thing that I got today here for us is just an overview of things here today. And DJ will go ahead and drop some of these questions in the chat. And I just want to, touch base with you guys. We'll definitely share some ideas and things like that. Just an open conversation here as we get ready to go through things today. And that is then reflecting on 2021. And just a series of questions here for us to kind of think about and consider. And, where I want to start here is essentially what went well for us in 2021. And as we get ready to answer this question, I think it's real important for us to at least be mindful of the experiences that everybody had. Some people had great 2021s where they really, excelled on the diamond and had opportunity. Others of us were in areas of the country that were not as open just yet to baseball and to opportunities as well. So, our experiences may have been limited, but at the end of the day, I'm sure we can go ahead and pluck away some things that what went well in 2021 as we were on the diamond, just some general ideas of what we were most proud of. What were some things that you found that you got better at? And if you did, how did you get better at those? What types of things made the difference? So that's inevitably here where I want to start kind of with the positives of just what exactly went well here for you guys here in 2021. And as I mentioned, just kind of open the floor here for you guys to go ahead and share at this time. So what went well in 2021? Let's hear what some people had to say.
Well, I don't know if this was a great thing, but our area is just has a plethora of youth umpires that are paid by concession sales. So our adult volunteer corps is very small. So be that as it may, with the limited baseball that we had in every league, I mean, it was fairly full, but not full all the way. There were no umpire shortages putting kids on the field. I mean, we didn't have a training program because of COVID, but for what we had to offer, I mean, it seemed to go fairly well. We had we had every umpires on every game. So unfortunately they're paid, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And getting youth involved, I think, is a big thing. I think there was a huge push for a lot of folks, and we'll get to this once we get into, the months of November and December, just to get a youth umpire corps coming in. And I know, Gary, you and many folks out in the West, and I think a lot of people have talked about just, how well they have put together youth programs too. And, that's definitely something that is on our radar to discuss and start to bring in about how to bring in that youth corps. But it definitely highlighted, I think, 2021, the need not only to find new people, but also to search for umpires that were younger as well. So that's good. That's good. What else went well in 2021, either for your program or for you individually on the field? Don't be afraid to kind of brag on yourself here a little bit, too.
I'll add something, Stu. Something that went great for me down here was when we made our way to the state tournaments. I was very stressed about how to cover everything. I had two state tournaments, the majors and the juniors, that were starting the same weekend, and then the 9, 10, 11 right after that. The umpires that came down, it helped me out to cover those tournaments. We could not have done it without them. I don't know where we would have been, and I appreciate that, and I hope to return that tenfold somewhere down the road whenever or wherever someone may need that. But that was.
You're welcome anytime in our district, Kevin.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Pardon me?
I said you're welcome anytime in our district.
We're looking forward to it. Yeah, you guys were a big help, especially that first weekend. It was a nightmare. So many games, so many people, so many things everywhere, spread out everywhere. But that was a huge lifeline. I appreciate that. Donnie brought some folks down. Phil and Jeff came down, helped out with the majors tournament. So it was big time.
Yeah, I don't think that was uncommon either. I mean, I remember seeing stuff from Kentucky, and you guys do a great job of this too, of kind of sharing state tournaments around too, George. And Mark, I even remember seeing some posts from your state tournament in Virginia as well. It seemed like we had that focal point, if you will, of being a supportive teammate, not only in terms of what we put on social media and what we share, but being there for each other. And I think that is definitely something that's special and unique about Little League umpires in general. And it was great to see that widespread, not only throughout the central region, but obviously in other regions as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something that can always be built on down the road too. That was my first experience of anybody coming to my district to help out. That since I've been the UIC, I'm sure it's happened before me, but since I've been the District 11 UIC, that was my first experience with any visiting umpires that came down here, and it was a huge stress reliever. I mean, it was still stressful, just like any tournament is, but could not have done it without all the help we got.
Yeah.
I had sent Stu a text message a while back, and Stu, I'm not going to reread that, but our tournament season up here for my area wasn't exactly great because, again, we go back to the paid umpires, and one league, they didn't want our help. They wanted to do their paid umpires. I mean, it was just, I did one tournament game this year, and I had blocked out those dates, and they didn't need us. So by the time that came around, I was unable to travel south to Illinois to help out and stuff like that. So I gotta figure out how to do something different next year. I don't know what that is just yet, but gotta work out something. So anyway, I had a great junior baseball game in some little league called the Mott Little League down there in Indiana. So that was a fun day though.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come back down anytime. I'll come up by you sometime next year.
There you go.
Well, Steve, we've got out of the 7 districts in Kentucky, when we rotate the state tournament around, we've got 2 DAs that they kind of have the same issue that you've got. They've got their local people and that's all they want to use. And they're not always Little League trained umpires. And sometimes they do okay and sometimes they don't, but they generally don't call the state Little League UIC who gets them from around the state. Fortunately, the 5 of the other districts do that because they realize what an obligation is to take it on, and they'd rather have somebody else assign the umpires and pull them in from all over the state to do it. But it's, in a way, it doesn't bother me that much because frankly, I didn't want to go to southeastern Kentucky to call games anyway.
Well, I wasn't trying to be demeaning of anybody or anything like that. I was just saying that was the issue for some of us up here. We didn't do as much as we wanted to. So, but we'll figure out something for next year, I'm sure.
Well, one of the things about our state tournament is actually pretty fun. Of course, we had 2 guys that went to Indianapolis to call the regional, and one of the guys, the DA that was running the tournament, he didn't call any games, but he's been a Little League World Series umpire in Williamsport, and he brought in one of the guys that he called with that year to call some games with us. And that was interesting to hear a lot of those stories and interact with those guys too. So
Yeah, Dr. John invited us, several of us, to come join him, but unfortunately, it was the same time as our state tournament, so I couldn't get away. I would have loved to have come down there and done it. And I think that's generally my problem is that I saw invitations from several states to come help places, but it conflicted with all of ours.
Well, no offense to the Virginia guys, but you would have had more fun with us.
Stu, I think one thing that was very positive, when you think of all we had to endure because of COVID, when you look at both the World Series and all of the regionals, I think there was some really, really good umpiring going on. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that some of those guys who were supposed to work the World Series were now in the regionals. And then you had the region, or the guys who were doing the World Series had done them before. And I don't know if I've seen as good as umpiring across the regional and World Series as I've seen, in the past. So it was definitely a positive to have guys who have done it before doing those again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that'll bring a conversation to the powers that be as to, do we start to recycle guys, not as often as we probably would like for those of us that have done things before, but, do we start to recycle them? If so, what does that process look like? Because I think that, to your point, there's a lot to be said of, splitting experienced guys with guys that need to get experience too. And, at the end of the day, the goal is to create an environment where everybody can succeed. And if that means recycling, two guys or two umpires just in general per tournament, maybe that's something that has to be discussed. And that's far above me. I know that it's something that we've definitely kicked around, and it's obviously what other organizations do too. And our model's different and unique in and of itself. But nonetheless, here, I think we definitely, learned a little bit there that there are some positives, and it's worth at least a discussion. So I want to circle back to something that Phil said and kind of bring it back to ourselves, because I think we got some good things there with what we've done as programs, and definitely some things to be proud of in terms of coming out of the COVID year and trying to continue to get out of it here as we do as a nation and as a global society. But Phil dropped in there about proper use of eyes and fanatical concentration, and that's probably in any time I have a conversation with somebody, that's ultimately what we generally see that conversation start to drift back towards. That many people felt like proper use of eyes and just general concentration, focus, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, were like the two areas that most people felt the most growth. And I don't know if anybody else can speak to that, or Phil, if you want to speak a little bit more on that one and just kind of continue down this path of some things individually that went well for us.
Well, it became a mantra and Tony can vouch for this, became a mantra at the Central Region Tournament, right? So, I mean, we all know and love Stu and his guidance that he provides. So, and the fanatical concentration was birthed in its current meeting at the regional. So, and it came about this, when was it? Second day, Stu, I think it came out. And it was just bringing up a meeting. We're all on a baseball field and we're all giving signals, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Okay. But the fanatical concentration took it a next step further. It's not, hey, I'm not pointing to where I'm going. It's okay. It's I'm truly concentrating on what my next step or two steps are, right? Because we all know if you lose those first two steps, you can be behind the play on the small diamonds. So I think it helped the umpire corps during that. I mean, we joked about it the whole entire time, but that's just the crew that was there. But we all respected it and knew what it meant. So I think it was a huge help to us. And I think Tony can vouch for that as well, and Seth as well, how we approached the game and executed during the game.
You bring up, and you're right, Phil, and you bring up the proper use of eyes. And we've all been taught have slow down your timing. And Stu, I think you expressed it the best when you say it's not really timing, it's really proper use of eyes. And if you do that, then your timing is going to be what it needs to be if you're using your eyes appropriately. So that's probably one of the things that I'm going to really take with me, going forward is that, as well as the concentration that Phil is referring to.
Yeah.
Hey, Stu,
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
before we leave the dearth of tournament umpires and the ability to get things scheduled effectively and correctly for the kids, I'd kind of be remiss if I didn't recognize that Southern California, Arizona are very, very fortunate in that we are relatively short distanced in a lot of our district and section tournament play. And without getting to know the UICs, without getting to attend the regional training sessions where UICs can meet each other, where folks that are going to the next tournament can get to know each other, we really put ourselves at a disadvantage. It's, you want to make sure that you can survive on your own and not be overly beholden to anybody else, but you've got to reach out and look to potentially deconflict those district tournaments and section tournaments, because there is some flexibility in there that you run them on, opposite weekends or this or that or the other thing, so that you can actually get 2 or 3 districts working together to help each other out. We found that to be very valuable in our area, and I heard a lot of guys talking in the Arizona area as well. And just, I'm a little dismayed that local leagues are not overly concerned that they have no umpires except paid umpires to work Little League games, which is obviously a major violation of the Little League philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on social media, I would see, I'm working a one-man tonight at a section tournament. Those sorts of things too are frightening, because the kids are going to begin to pick up on this. The parents will begin to go here and there. And all of a sudden, you know, with the increased cooperation between travel ball and Little League, we're going to find that preferentially they're going to keep going to travel ball. You had 2 or 3 teams at the World Series who were direct pickups from travel ball, and the commentators from ESPN were not shy about talking about it. So bottom line on it, I think it has to do with getting to know each other in the March, April, May timeframe, so that you're ready to converse and talk together and capitalize on each other's benefits when it comes to the June, July timeframe. Back to you.
Yeah, that's a great point, and definitely something that we are going to circle back to reach out to some regions and some local league UICs, some district UICs that have done well collaborating with other districts too, especially like you said, to schedule more effectively, to grow your umpire size, and basically borrow umpires too. So that's one of our topics once we get into November and December. You know, building that program, and hopefully that sets many people up, as you mentioned, to build those relationships in the early part of 2022. So yeah, that's good stuff. Continue to think back about like what did you get better at here in 2022? Or, I'm sorry, 2021. Phil mentioned proper use of eyes and concentration. I know that has been a large theme, and I would say that probably the overwhelming majority of people that I've had conversations with over the last year have definitely talked about that too. So just want to keep circling back and flushing out that one. What did you get better at? You know, how so? What do you think made the difference in all that too here as we reflect back on 2021?
Well, kind of a good thing, bad thing with the 303 down we've been doing. Those were really great. And, you know, and you brought up and you kept hammering in a lot of topics like the concentration on the use of eyes, focusing on different things, you know, communicating with your partners, that made me much more aware of, when I got on a field, of some shortcomings that needed to be cleaned up. The bad part was, since we didn't have any clinics, I've always been a learn by doing kind of person, and I need reps. I need to get on the field. I need to go to clinics, not just for the camaraderie, but getting on the field, getting to do things through the steps with people that do know what they're doing, that can spot the flaws and can correct them as you're going along, instead of just somebody after a game is going to say, "Oh yeah, you had a great game."
Right.
And missing out on those clinics hurt, but the 303 down sessions helped quite a bit in recognizing where those flaws are and what you can try to work on. But for me, it was just difficult to do that without having opportunities to do that where they weren't live games.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, especially, and Gerard, you mentioned this, some stuff about the wedge here, and if Gerard's around, you want to talk at all about any type of progression you made about the wedge. But before I kind of turn it over to Gerard, I always tell people when we talked about the wedge, and I had this conversation with Brian DeBrouwer yesterday at lunch, is that everybody's in a different place with regards to where they're at in the wedge. Like, I know Phil's at a different place than say Andy may be at with regards to understanding of the wedge and tag positioning and things like that. And I think what's real important for us, and George, this kind of goes into your segment here too, is to, number one, understand that we're all running that wedge race in terms of getting better there. But at the same time, like, we're going to finish at a different place, but we're going to get to that end spot all at the same time. And we're definitely around to help each other out. And George, to your point, I think we definitely got to get back to in-person stuff, and that day's coming. But in the meantime, I'm glad that we've had some value and some transferability from the virtual world to some of that stuff too. So Gerard, I'll go back to you here. Anything that Gerard, you want to add into there about your wedge progression or your wedge journey there throughout the season? Gerard, yeah,
looks like he's on mute. You're on mute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I think what the opportunity, and I'm looking, there are 19 people on this Zoom right now. There should be 500. This is one of the best things going. I mean, and it's all about sharing. It's not about this is right, this is wrong. It's about exposing everybody. And I mean, George brought it up and a bunch of you guys brought it up. And I mean, your focal points are spot on. And I tried to use those to make me a little bit better in what I do and what I do for my district and my state and you know, just myself. And it's, I mean, you're continually taking stuff and learning from it and making it better for everybody. And you know, like I said, there should be 500 people. I've exposed a bunch of people and you know, some of them get it. You know, the other real value is the way you do it. You record it and it's on YouTube, and boom, you can get it at 2:00 in the morning or 9, you know, 9 or whenever. And it's really good stuff.
Appreciate that. So
Yeah, I had a couple of opportunities especially during our state tournament, because we were doing 4-man the whole time. So, you know, wedge became a lot more practical. You know, I tried to work it when I was working the plate, you know, either by myself or with, you know, two of us, but had to play at the plate, you know, in the state tournament. And our district UIC was I'd say adjacent district was the tournament UIC so he said, man, you executed that, you know, bragging a little bit, you executed that absolutely perfectly. You would have been proud of the videos too. You know, staying in there, the, you know, slide play at the plate, curl, and ended up, you know, inside the first base foul line, making the call on the tag at the plate. And it was just, you know, couldn't have been in a better spot by, you know, just knowing where to be and how to move with it. So it was, you know, I thought I'm really starting to get it. I hadn't really worked on it at all, probably, you know, prior to maybe about a year and a half ago. And I really feel it's starting to come together.
Well, and a really good example from the Little League World Series, again, to brag on Central Region guy. And somehow this still photo ended up in a newspaper out of Louisville somehow. But Jason Kelly was the plate umpire, and he had rotated up to third on a ball to the gap where I guess you two had gone out and 3U had rotated up to second. He had rotated to third, and the still picture had his eyes dead down on that gap between the glove with the ball and the foot coming into the bag. Mm-hmm. I think he ended up calling the guy safe. But it was just a great physical example. And I remember watching the play live, because when they did the replay and they showed the angle from the left field foul pole, you could see U1 coming down to cover home plate, and he was going to be there in case anything else came in. But the videos of that, and I think Steve mentioned earlier about getting to watch the rotations and the use of the wedge on this year's Little League World Series. If you knew what you were looking for, they were fantastic to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I think that goes back to, you know, Phil's point and what Tony brought up about fanatical concentration, because I know that was one of the points of emphasis to those guys, and they'll be able to talk about that next week. I don't want to, you know, steal their thunder or speak for them by any stretch of the imagination, but that and then use of eyes on each other too. And then just coming back to Mark's point about the wedge, I just want to say this again, like, you know, everybody's in a different wedge journey. Like, you know, there could be a year where like you only have 2 or 3 tag plays at the plate to be able to use it. And then that kind of sets you a little bit behind the 8 ball again, because it is new and we're all still feeling our way out about it. So, you know, if you ever look up 4 stages of competency, you know, that you go from, you know, unconsciously not knowing what you don't know to finally like doing something so much that is instinctual and habitual. And I guess that's the race. And, you know, we're all in that in a different spot together. So give yourself some grace in that. And just realize that, you know, wedge progression as a focal point of emphasis for us isn't going anywhere, because, you know, you guys, myself, everyone else, we're all in various places, and we kind of go in different places depending on what our seasons all look like and how many umpire systems we're able to work and things like that too. So the last point that I kind of want to hit back to is question wise is, just some things that we may struggle with in 2021 that we want to take a look at and try and improve upon once we get to 2022. So that's kind of my next round of questions, I guess, here for us to just discuss and mull over here for a few minutes, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So just again, that question: what did you struggle with most in 2022? It could have been the wedge or whatever it might be, and then from there, what are some things, some adjustments that you'd like to make looking forward to 2022?
Well,
I'm gonna work on my nemesis, Stu.
Oh, what's that, Phil?
Drop third strike mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Did he just say drop third strike?
It's a long story, Mark.
Uncaught.
It's a long story.
Yeah. Your uncaught third strikes. Yeah.
I discovered, particularly as we got to district tournaments, that my communication on the field had pretty much sucked. I spent most of the regular season working with new guys. It was difficult to keep their attention during the game, or old guys who frankly were just there to kind of get the game through, and giving signals and communication back and forth was a bit of a struggle. So I kind of let it lapse as the season went on. And when we got back into the district tournament, I started to realize, particularly when some of the guys would come up to me between innings and say, "Are you awake or not?" And I was like, "Oh crap, my communication sucks right now."
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, forcing yourself to make eye contact with each umpire, between every play, those little things like that actually end up being a big deal when you get to decent games.
Yeah. For sure. What else? Anybody else want to share what they may have struggled with most, or even like what you overcame, during the season? That's something that's real too, where you notice that you're struggling with it, and then you find a way to fix it, and all of a sudden it becomes something that you're proud of by the end of the year too. So, what else might we've struggled with during 2021 and looking to fix, or at least continue to improve upon as we look ahead to the fall and then 2022?
I think I gotta worry about work on the wedge, make it has to become like riding a bicycle. It's so natural. But I think when I think about it, when I think a play is going to happen, and I think about trying to get into the wedge or doing something right, I'm afraid I'm going to screw up. So I just tend to go with what I know, and then still trying to study. But Stu, I think you know that when I would call a strike, I would call it from the down position, then I would come up and just give the signal. Well, I finally broke that bad habit, and now it's coming up. And somebody talked about timing and stuff like that. That my timing has always been good, I thought, but I just needed to make that slight little change. So I think I had a pretty consistent year with my zone, but working on that wedge was just sometimes it was frustrating.
Yeah.
I didn't feel I was in the right spot at the right time. And so we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Stu, for me, as you know, I had the little issue on the lines, opening the gate and not watching the ball, not watching the players, I should say, and watching the ball instead. And I made a little step towards the end of the tournament, but obviously something I need to continue to work on.
Yeah, I got you. Yep. So just open up the gate and provide freedom of movement for fielders. Yeah, especially when you're out on the field. Yeah, easier said than done on the 60-foot diamond a lot of times too, as we all know.
One thing that I noticed and was working with our group to try and stay focused through the season was without the preseason training, very few clinics, very few this and that. We ended up in a position where you went from the winter to basically on your own and running, and finding those 2 or 3 moments when you could get somebody experienced off the field to critique your 2, 3, 4-man crew and get some good feedback, so you didn't spend the entire year letting the 1 or 2 things that you really weren't focused on become increasingly bad habits through the year. And then all of a sudden, like George said, somebody will jerk your chain and pull you right back to, why in the world are you doing that at that point in time? What's going on? So working hard to find mid-season, maybe it's a 1-hour rules review, maybe it's a 20-minute clinic somewhere where you're going to focus on 1 or 2 things the topics you throw out, last section 6 and section 5, talking about those coverages and getting good, solid feedback for your better umpires, your more experienced guys, so that when they're working with the inexperienced folks aren't seeing things that aren't helping them.
Mm, that's a great point. That's a good topic for a whole season, how to give good feedback. I think that's awesome.
Right, and that's I totally agree with Gary. That's one of my problems. I have one partner who will call it like it is. The problem is most of everybody else looks at me as, okay, you did the World Series. If I hopped around on one foot, they'd say, well, that must be right because Mark's doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be totally screwing something up and not even realizing it. But nobody's here to call me on it.
Yeah, right. Whenever we screw something up, we'll look at the younger guys and goes, well, don't worry about it. That's an advanced mechanic. Or to go through.
Well, and Mark is right. I work with a lot of new guys around here because I got to go recruit them every year. So by extension, I'm going to be the most experienced person on the field 9 out of every 10 games I call. So they're not going to know what to tell me if I've screwed up on it. But when you get back around to working games with guys that have been much more experienced and you've called district and state level games with before, and they're willing to tell you, you really jacked up that play at third, or were you really paying attention to that line drive down the line, and getting you back into those things. And I like to call games with people that I think are much better than I am, because I think they're going to be more honest with their feedback and they know what they're talking about.
Well, I'll start to go ahead and wrap it up, and we can hang out here a little bit afterwards and continue to mull over some of those questions and share that stuff, because I think that's great, and it's awesome. Believe me, it is awesome. I'll pause here and just say to hear number one, what went well for you guys this season, what you guys found success in, what you may have had to work through, and then even kind of knowing a little bit more about hey, this is what I struggled with and this is what I'd like to get better at, is definitely helpful for us as a region to put things together, for us on the show, if you will, to put things together for you guys too, because we definitely want to make it relevant to not only you all, but as many viewers as we possibly can. So that feedback is great to just, number one, touch base with you guys in general as people and as human beings, but even more so to make sure that we're delivering some relevant things here too. So as we know, I'm a big video guy, and what is there? There's no 3 up, 3 down session without any video. So I want to go ahead and share my screen. Many of you guys, as we talked about here, really kind of focused on the fanatical concentration and proper use of eyes that you guys felt like you improved on this season, and you also obviously saw it play out by the Little League World Series guys, who we'll have on next season. I'm sorry, next week for the next 3 weeks here as well too. And we're excited to have them on. What we did was we kind of put together a little bit of a highlight video, and I just want to share a little bit of that highlight video to kind of focus on those things that we definitely have talked about here tonight, and that is that fanatical concentration, that proper use of eyes. So I'll go ahead and get ready to play this one here. There were 2 quotations that we used throughout 2021. Build habits by taking advantage of the easy plays. Got that one from our good friend Brian DeBrouwer from United Umpires and an NCAA umpire. And then the last one then from a Denison grad, had to throw that in there too. And that's that we don't rise to the level of our goals, but rather we fall to the level of our habits. And I think so many of us did a really good job of mindfully trying to improve our habits that made us more aware of things that we were doing well on the diamond, and then even in things that we need to improve upon too. So I think these 2 habits really encompass hopefully the 2021 season that we had, and then moving into the fall of 2021, and then again in 2022. I don't think we can lose sight of these things. So let's take a look here at a fanatical concentration and proper use of eyes as demonstrated by the guys working the World Series here. You'll see our 2021 focal points. And again, just want to spend time with numbers 1 and 2 here very quickly before we go ahead and break it out for the night. First one was build habits by taking advantage of the routine plays. That was one of our major focal points. Real easy one for us to see here. This is a chopper down the third base line. And our umpire here is Chris Rutz out of the West. And he just very easily gets on the line in a very innocuous play. This ball is obviously foul. But again, a great looking mechanic, a great fundamental here for him to be on the line and then go ahead and get this one fair foul. Here's one that travels down the line. Brian Henry from the Southeast is our first base umpire here that goes ahead and gets this one out. You see he too is on the line. He's set and ready for this one. He's not moving as this play happens. And again, these are really easy routine plays. But again, these are the habits that are going to make some of those more difficult plays or the ones that are a little bit more challenging. And it's going to make us look better. And here we've got one that's a little bit more, quicker to happen. You got a diving fielder here too, potential catch, no catch, and fair foul. Jason Kelly's our third base umpire there. He, as the other two umpires, is on the line, obviously, right here. And we get a great mechanic out of him for fair. And then, signaling no catch. So just a great example there of how building those easy fundamentals, those easy habits, inevitably is what we revert back to when the chips are on the table. And we can't revert back to those habits unless we take advantage of the routine plays. And something as very simple as being on the line for fair foul definitely is something to put into your back pocket there. Another example here of taking advantage of some routine plays on some seemingly innocuous plays, if you will, or routine ones. It's just a ground ball back to the pitcher, right? Brian Henry's the plate umpire, does a really good job again of clearing the catcher, pounces out, gets it on and up. But one thing that I think many umpires don't do well enough or don't do as mindfully as possible is working to get your angle distance here at first base. And Mike Debelak from the West is our first base umpire here. And you can see this very easy ground ball. We still see the same great fundamentals. Brian's busting out from behind the plate. We get a very good 90-degree angle there from Mike Debelak, our first base umpire. You see his 90-degree angle there. And then not only does he demonstrate the 90-degree angle for angle distance here as U1, but you can also see his timing and his use of eyes comes about too, because he hasn't yet signaled his call. I'll rewind it back a little bit here for us. Take a look here at what he does with his eyes. He waits for that ball right there in a freeze frame for that fielder to show and demonstrate firm and secure possession before he even goes and makes his signal. And that's a great fundamental to have, because you never know when you're going to have to revert back to that fundamental here in the future. Another really good look at this one. Talk about getting our 90-degree angle. This one's in what we call the imaginary box. So if you remember, U1's 90-degree angle is a little bit closer to that baseline between first and second base. Ricky Hall out of the East is our first base umpire here, and he does a great job of getting as far as the play allows him to on a really, really close whacker here at first base. And he does a great job of getting that 90-degree angle. Again, something that we may take for granted in very routine plays, but if we're mindfully working to that, when we get something as close as this, like, we look really, really good. And this play eventually got reviewed. Take a look at this replay angle. If we don't get our 90-degree angle here, if Ricky doesn't get his 90-degree angle, he's seeing this one basically from the backside. He doesn't get an opportunity to see the ball into the glove and the runner hitting the base. And Mike Debelak's our plate umpire, and again, right on the line, he's busted out. He's on the line for fair foul. But again, really good job here of our angle distance from U1, so that he's able to see the ball into the glove and not looking at this from behind. Has a total look then at ball into the glove as well as foot on the base. So a really good job there to work to get his 90. Here's his replay. This one, like I said, was challenged. First base coach from Ohio thought he got it wrong. Replay said, this was as close as it got to us. And Ricky did a great job there. And I think one of the reasons why he was able to get that call right was obviously not only sound, but, in working in stadiums or areas where we may not have sound, working to get that 90 is so important so that we see all factors of the play there unfold. Another great job here by another U1 and working to get that 90-degree angle. It's Darren Beeschek from Connecticut from the East. He reads this one through. You saw him start to go ahead and drift into fair territory there because he initially saw that one potentially to go ahead and be fielded. It gets through the first baseman, and now we potentially have a 9-3 put out. He moves to point of base, as we talk about in our 4-umpire manual. Watch his eyes here, okay? His eyes go right back to the baseball. He knows where it's coming from. He gets set for his play, done a great job at finding his 90. So again, as we continue to work as U1, those fundamentals, my point being here that, take advantage of the routine plays, because you never know when working mindfully to get that 90-degree angle on a routine ball to the pitcher, as Mike Debelak showed us, inevitably allows us to make our money like it did Ricky Hall and like it does Darren Beeschek right here for this one as well. So just a fantastic job there all around. I'll come back to proper use of eyes and things like that next week. But again, just that whole idea, I think of, as you guys have mentioned, fanatical discipline and making sure that we concentrate and focus on those routine plays. And it's great to hear you guys talk about how those were major points of emphasis for you personally on the diamond and how you felt you got better throughout the year. I'll go ahead and wrap things up here for us. Again, we are really excited to have those umpires from the 2021 umpire crew to go ahead and join us beginning next week. We'll bring them on in a couple different panels for us to ask questions, kind of give them an opportunity to interview and share what exactly went well for them and reflect upon their season and things like that too. But really appreciate everyone joining us. We'll be back at the same time, same place next week. That's 8 p.m. on Sunday evening. We hope you can join us here as we welcome our Little League World Series umpires from 2021 and to join us, share their experience and anything else they want to go ahead and give to us. Again, thank you for your time, your participation, and obviously for your continued viewership here in 3 Up, 3 Down. We'll be back next week. We'll look forward to it then. Other than that, have a great week, and we'll see everybody then on Sunday at 8 p.m.